Hey, lighters! Before we get into today's case, I really appreciate the support and patience you have for me. I really do. You have no idea. It keeps my heart beating. Okay, healing is a ongoing journey. Okay, but we kind of don't have time for it, but we do. But we kind of, but we don't. But we do. We have to live. We have to understand the past. Understand the past. Live in the present, plan for the future. The abuse this soul had to deal with is grotesque and humiliating. This is a warning if you are not in your stage of healing with dealing with triggers. This is a warning. But as a community, we all need to recognize the signs. Learn to be better guardians. That's why we're here. And hand down a kingdom to your children, not trauma. That's what we're here to do. No more slaves, kingdoms. The question that everyone is going to have, and that I had too, with so much evidence from past official notifications, not just family members, official. So what are some new procedures that social workers and children can do together to analyze the situation and recognize the signs? This is the unheard voice of Arthur Hughes. Arthur was born January 4th, 2014 in West Midland, England to parents Olivia Labinjo-Hughes and Thomas Hughes. Arthur's parents separated in his infancy. He was cared for by his biological mother at first, Olivia Hughes, but that all changed in February 2019 when she murdered her partner, Gary Cunningham. She originally had 18 years, but later was convicted of manslaughter and sentenced to 11 years. If you want to know more about that story, it's in the description, but this isn't about her. But this is how Thomas Hughes gained custody of Arthur and made his whole environment change. Thomas and Arthur Hughes started to live with grandmother Joanne Hughes. Arthur started to go to Dickens Heath Community Primary School, and the school is going to play a major role in this case. August 2019, that's when Thomas Hughes met Emma Tustin on Plenty of Fish. Once the seasons started to change to autumn, according to the court documents, that's when grandmother Joanne Hughes, his uncle, and school officials started to notice a behavior change in Arthur. The official held a meeting on November 2019 with Thomas Hughes and Grandma Joanne Hughes. Arthur was starting to develop an obsession with guns, death, news, being killed by his father, or being taken away. In March 2020, Hughes took Arthur to Children and Adolescent Mental Health Services. Practitioner Carrie Forsyth Benson, who reported the boy saying he was worried about his dad not returning, his physical appearance seemed fine, and as his aggression and anxiety had reduced, she concluded there was no mental health issues. Nothing would be the same for Arthur. Hughes and Arthur moved into Tustin's home in Solihull. April 16th through the 18th, there were family witnesses. Arthur's grandmother and uncle called services numerous of times. His uncle almost got arrested. They reported bruises and psychological neglect of Arthur. Whilst he was at his grandmother's house, Arthur said that he had been pinned against the wall by Tustin and called a horrible, ugly brat. But Thomas Hughes, the father, refused to let Arthur stay with his grandmother. On April 17th, social worker Jane Kavanaugh from Solihull Council visited Tustin's home. In court documents, Emma Tustin and Thomas Hughes coached the children so well and threatened them with, "They will take you away from us and no telling where you may end up." So the children played a role. They were scared. They were afraid to be taken away from each other and from their quote unquote parents. The social worker concluded that the children in general, all of them, were very happy and safe, and that there were no issues in the household. April 20th, grandmother Joanne Hughes told Arthur's school about the referral to social services. Michelle Hull, safeguard lead at Dickens Heath Community Primary School, contacted social services, but was told they had no concerns. So they ended the situation. and thought everything was fine. June 8th, Arthur's school reopened, but Thomas Hughes did not send Arthur back, initially claiming that Arthur hadn't slept well, but he will return back to school the next day. Over the following days, he will report back to the school, giving a lot of excuses, saying that he lost weight, he might faint, but yet he's having fun with the other children that's in the household. Arthur never returned back to school. June 15th through 17th were 72 hours of hell. On June 15th, Emma forced Arthur to a hairdresser appointment. Emma made Arthur stand in the corner throughout the 6 hours she was there, belittling him. He completely collapsed on the floor. Catherine Milhinch, the hairdresser, said Arthur was told to face the door and not move during the entire 6-hour session. She described his appearance as skeletal and said his legs were shaking, like he couldn't hold himself up. June 16th, video footage from a CCTV camera in the living room where Arthur slept on the floor showed him appearing weak as he woke up and struggled to carry his bedding out of the room. This is a warning. After Arthur woke up, they returned to Milhinch's house to finish the hair appointment. During this time, Thomas Hughes and Emma Tustin took turns shouting at Arthur like a game of tennis, Milhinch stated to the court. Her partner, Tobias German, snuck Arthur a glass of water without them knowing, and he stated that Arthur looked petrified and malnourished. They eventually got back home without Thomas Hughes. Shortly after 2:30 p.m., Emma Tustin messaged Thomas Hughes to say Arthur would not get up off the floor and claim he had knocked himself out by hitting his head on the floor.
Ambulance service, is the patient breathing?
Barely.
Okay, is he breathing right now though, even if he's...
Is he breathing, Tom? He keeps taking big dark breaths. Basically, my 6-year-old stepson is falling, he's banged his head.
Okay.
And while he was on the floor, he's banged his head another 5 times.
Okay.
He's lost colour, he's got a big lump on his head.
Is he awake?
So what, sorry?
Is he awake?
He's half in and out, but he's banged his head quite hard.
Is his breathing noisy or abnormal?
Is it noisy or abnormal? It's barely there, he's barely breathing, he's in and out, he's taking hard.
Okay.
He's basically been treating us all like shit. He's threw himself on the floor, he's headbutting the floor. I'm trying to pick him up in the process, he's headbutting me in the process.
Okay.
I've got him up, he was breathing like a little bit better at first.
Yeah.
Washed him down, put some water down him, tried to obviously get him
Okay.
got a bit more colouring in, but then obviously I've seen the lump on his head that he's done to himself.
Right. Help's been arranged for him. Okay.
Yeah.
Try and keep calm for me. Can you get him
Yeah.
lay out flat on his back?
Flat on his back.
How old is he?
He's 6, nearly 7.
6 years old. Okay.
Yeah.
Right, there is me. And
He's losing. He's very pale, but obviously it's a big bang. He's knocked himself out by the look of him.
And he's barely breathing now.
He's breathing. He's barely breathing. He's lifeless at the minute.
Okay, so I'm going to tell you how to give basic life support. Okay, so you can just keep going.
Just briefly, what happened?
Basically, he'd gone out to get me a birthday cake and stuff for the kids. Arthur was told to sit on the thinking step. Arthur's put himself all over the floor. He's banged himself off the radiator. He's hit me. He's kicked me in the process of me trying to get him back on the thinking step. He's then gone on all fours on the floor, and I've told him to get up. And I shut the door over, and all I heard was a crack off the floor. He was headbutting the floor on all fours. Headbutted the floor once, said, "Arthur, get up, you're going to hurt yourself. I've phoned your dad." He went, "I don't care." At that point, he was fine. And then he dropped his head again as I've tried to bear hug him and pick him up, and he headbutted the floor 3 times.
Here on this carpet?
Round about, the door was shut, so if you go in, I'll show you. It's probably about here his head was, but it's concrete, there's no underlay under that. But he'd banged his head 3 or 4 times. Obviously then went to picked him up. He'd knocked himself unconscious. I picked him up, put him on the sofa, poured water in his mouth.
So you've come in, he's banged his head 3 or 4 times
I was
here.
I was in the kitchen, then I'd sat down in the living room and that's when he threw himself on the floor.
And you heard him banging his head?
Bang his head.
So what did you do?
I came out to him and told him to get up. He told me no. So I tried to bear hug him and put my arms underneath him and pick him up. And he dropped and he banged his head another 3 times off the floor. And as I picked him up, he hit me and he kicked me as I was trying to get him up.
And then what? So, and you went?
I picked him up off the floor.
Yeah.
Tried to put him on the stairs just to get him to, but his head's obviously going out, so I put him straight on the stairs. I said, "Where I've got to phone an ambulance."
So he's unresponsive?
Yeah. Like I say, he's like, the last 6 months, he's battered both my kids. He's smashed this house to pieces. He's battered his dad. He's hit me. When I tried to get him off the floor from headbutting the floor, he headbutted me and he kicked me and he's hit me. Yesterday we went to my friend's house and he pushed me down 5 stairs. "You're not my real mum, I hate ya. I'm going to get my mum to kill you," he said. And even so, I've done my best for that kid.
Arthur was taken to the Birmingham Children's Hospital, and later that evening, Tustin and Hughes were arrested on suspicion of causing bodily harm with intent. Arthur was belittled, didn't go to school, didn't have a bed to sleep in, told to stand in the corner for long periods of time, filmed, beaten, and constantly isolated. The system did a half job. The pair would film their abuse of Arthur and send clips amongst themselves via text. In these clips, Arthur could be heard crying for his grandmother and uncle, and at one point you can hear both of them call him Satan, a devil child, weasel, Hitler, messing with his mental. There is a detailed documentary called The Murder of Arthur Hughes, a Faking It special with interviews and evidence. On that day of June 16th, after Tustin came back from the hairdresser, at 2 p.m., Tustin goes upstairs to fix her makeup. Around this time, she gave Arthur a concoction of salt and water. Tustin photographed Arthur crying in the hallway at 2:15 p.m. and sent the photo to Thomas Hughes. Emma dealt the fatal assault at 2:29 p.m. When she went into the hallway where Arthur was located standing up. She shook Arthur and hit his head against a hard surface multiple times. The assault took about 1 minute. She proceeds to send a photo to Thomas Hughes of Arthur passing away. A medical review found that he was covered in 130 bruises, that he'd been poisoned with salt, and that the extent of his injuries were compared to torture. The psychology of this is simple. A classic case of a step-parent hating a child from a previous relationship. It's spiritual warfare. We have Thomas Hughes, a boy that met a girl on Plenty of Fish, barely knew her. He was a very weak boy, saw Emma as new life, but she had problems of her own that he didn't know. There was a history of domestic abuse with Emma as both victim and perpetrator. She had 4 children. 2 of them lived with her, the other 2 didn't. But Emma saw Thomas Hughes as new life too. She didn't tell him about her past because she knew he wouldn't want her. The red flags were there. She knew it. That's why she lied. Emma used the fact that Arthur's biological mother, Olivia, was a murderer, turned Thomas against his own son,
and that they will be happier without him. But as a father, how could you believe an outsider? He believed her and joined in on the abuse.
Rest in peace, Arthur, and may your next life be filled with abundance and parents, guardians that love you and want nothing but the best for you. May your soul find happiness and love. It's the DLG Meraki. Welcome back to the UVC family. Protect the like button and subscribe if you love the vibes and the content. Be great, be loved, spread love, and a lock and a rat connect. Catch y'all later.